Hey guys, welcome to today's video and welcome back to my channel. I have both the boys here, Kai's there, and Jackson is over there, so work with me on this, please. I think Jackson's getting tired, so once I'm done filming this video, I'll probably make a bottle, feed him, and let him take his nappy. So anyways, today we are going to be talking about the murder of Jill Dando. So, just for a little pretext, Jill Dando was a journalist, and she was on TV with, the BBC, so she was like kind of like famous, I guess you could say. So Jill Dando was actually shot outside of her home. Like the way I kind of like read it and understood it is that she was leaving, like she left the front door and she was walking out, and somebody just walked up to her and shot her. And it was on like a morning, so you would think that people would have seen. I also, when I was researching this, because I still have like the little Wikipedia page open so that way I can like double check my facts. I'm trying to give out accurate information. It says that it was the largest manhunt since the Yorkshire rapists and the biggest like murder investigation. So, a man named Barry George actually was arrested and convicted for the murder, but after 8 years, he was acquitted of the murder, which I couldn't really find out that much information about him other than the fact that he did get convicted of it at first, and then after 8 years of prison, he got a retrial and he was acquitted of it. So I'm also reading that in 2012, a warlord, like a Siberian warlord, I don't know how to say his name, Akon, something like that. He was named a suspect in her murder in 2012, but he had died in the year 2000, which was only a couple of years after her murder, I believe. Let me double check. Okay, so Jill Dando was actually murdered in 1999, so it would have been completely plausible for this Siberian or whatever, warlord or whatever, to go and kill her, even though he died in the year 2000. I'm just going to use my finger. Much better. So, it is entirely possible. It's 100,000% possible for him to have done this, and I think that it's very plausible also to say that his motive was because she was a reporter and she was on TV, and maybe she was looking into his crimes because she was a reporter. Okay, so I did a little bit more research and I have some more information. So Jill Dando was actually in the process of selling the house that she was shot in front of, and she was returning to it. She didn't return to it very often. She obviously was living with her fiance, which I don't know if I mentioned that, but she did have a fiance. So she was in the process of selling her house. And it said that she was shot right as she got to the front door. And the police were called at 11:47, which tells me that people were around. So somebody had to have seen something because it's pretty early in the morning. So police were called, the ambulance was called, and she unfortunately was pronounced dead on arrival at the hospital. Her assailant actually fired a single shot into her temple, which killed her instantly, so it gives me a little bit of comfort knowing she at least didn't feel too much pain. Although she really could have had a lot of people that were going after her just because she was on TV. I mean, she could have been covering cases or looking into something that somebody didn't want her to look into. So I actually want to read this directly from the Wikipedia page because I'm afraid I won't get it accurate, and I think that this is really, really important in case somebody sees this video, because it is a smaller YouTube channel and decides that they might know something and might want to give it out. So her next door neighbor, Richard Hughes, heard a scream from Dando at the time of the murder, but he thought it was somebody surprising somebody, but nope, he didn't hear a gunshot. When he looked out his front window, he didn't realize what had happened, but he made the only certain sight of the killer, a 6-foot-tall white man aged around 40. So he'd be aged around, not even 60, he'd be in his 70s now. So obviously after Jill Dando's murder, there was a lot of media coverage because she was, in fact, in her own right, in the media. And there was like an investigation for a year done by police, and it didn't really draw up very much. It's kind of hard to like say, you know, accurately, because she was a public figure and she was, you know, her work brought her in contact with a lot of people, some bad, some good, and it's really hard to say the motive. I think that that's what got people so curious about this murder, is that like there's so many routes that could be taken that we don't know really who killed her or why, and like there's just so many different reasons as to why she could have been murdered. So let's talk about Barry George. So he lived half a mile from Jill Dando, and he actually had a history of like stalking women and sexual assault from what I read. And I think that that's kind of like what really put him on police's radar, because from what I read, they actually didn't start looking at Barry George until a year after her murder, and they had no other leads. So, poor guy. So, after George was convicted, a lot of people, it kind of like was like made a lot of headway, obviously because of who Jill Dando was, but also due to the fact that people kind of felt like the case against George was unsuccessful. And I do want to point out, yes, he did spend 8 years in prison, but I also read that he had done 2 unsuccessful acquittals. He had appealed for 2 unsuccessful acquittals before he finally did get another acquittal, or retrial, whatever you want to call it, which did get him his acquittal. So after his acquittal, obviously it was big in the news, and a lot of newspapers kind of made him out to seem like he was guilty of Jill Dando's murder and other like crimes against women. And in 2009, he actually accepted substantial like losses from the newspapers that said he was guilty. So now let's talk a little bit about theories. So the first theory online is that a ex-boyfriend or an unknown lover had killed Jill Dando, which is very, very possible. That is possible, but I think that due to the fact that she was a pretty public figure, it more or less probably wasn't going to be a jealous boyfriend or ex-boyfriend or a lover. It was more than likely going to be somebody who had something against her. There is another theory that somebody had hired an assassin to kill Jill, which, does this kind of seem like an assassination attempt to you guys? Because I think some aspects of it could kind of seem like an assassination attempt, but some also might not. But the theory goes that somebody hired an assassin to take Jill out as revenge for her covering a case on Crime Watch, because she also was on Crime Watch, which I love Crime Watch. And ultimately somebody got convicted of a crime, and because of that they wanted to take revenge on Jill Dando. There's also the theory that it could have been, like, there's a lot of theories that it could be somebody who was a part of like this like group that was against like the media outlet, because I mean, let's be honest, there's going to be some people that don't like the media because they do report a lot of stuff, and a lot of the times it is inaccurate. There is the possibility that it's inaccurate because, I mean, they're just trying to make a buck. You know, they ain't doubling down and trying to make sure that they got the right information. I mean, some of them probably, yeah, but a lot of them aren't gonna be like that. And I'm not saying Jill Dando was like that, because I really don't know, because I was a year old when she died. I was literally a year old because she was murdered on April 26th and my birthday was April 16th. So I was literally like a year and 10 days because I was born in 1998. So yeah. You get older and you learn a lot of crazy things. I learned that Selena was born on my birthday, and I love the fact that I share a birthday with her, which if you're curious about the case of Selena Quintanilla, I have a Makeup and Mystery, which will be out before this one, so just check that out. I love Selena. I think she was beautiful, and we're both Aries, and I love her. Okay, so this is a really big one that I really want to cover, and that is the theory that she was killed by a deranged fan, which that's where my mind, and I think most normal people's minds go to. Police did actually end up ruling this theory out, but Jill's brother, Nigel, actually said that a few days before her death, and this is why I think that this one is the biggest one, she was concerned about a deranged fan who had, like, cornered her. And I think that that is more than enough reason for police to look into this man, but I mean, like, they didn't. I don't know why. There's also the theory that Jill Dando was actually a case of mistaken identity and that they were trying to kill somebody else. I don't think that, because And I think that the police are the same way with this because I was reading it a little bit. It took place on her doorstep. And this woman was on TV. How can you have a case of mistaken identity? She's famous. There's also a theory that Jill Dando was looking into a pedophilia ring at the BBC, and she had actually turned in her findings to the BBC management, and the attack was meant to be revenge for that. However, the BBC actually has came out and said no such claims exist, which I'm curious about what you guys think about that. Do you think that the BBC would come out? Because this is all in London, just so you guys know. So, if I have anybody from London watching this, please let me know. Do you think that the BBC would have came out and said, yes, here are her findings, we did or we didn't have one? Let's just say that they did have one and they had evidence that her murder could have been a revenge attack. Do you think that they would have came out and said it? I'm curious what you guys think. Here are probably more likely theories, and that is that her attack was a business rival. And I mean, she was pretty big on TV, so it is entirely possible that she was targeted by other rivals. Or maybe a scorned business partner. I'm not entirely sure if Jill Dando owned like any other real estate aside from her home that she was trying to sell because she was living with her fiance who she was about to be married to. I mean, money can make you do a lot of crazy things. There are a ton of different cases where money is the motive. So let's talk about the professional hit idea. So this actually was ruled out by police because Jill was living with her fiance at the time, and they stated that they didn't think that it would be possible for a hitman to be so sufficiently knowledgeable about her movements and going back to her old residence because she was in the process of selling it, which, come on. That's a hitman's job, is to stalk his target. That's their job. Like, that is their job. Their job is to know their target and know their target's movements. Like, come on. Like, police is stupid. So on the night of the attack, I kind of find this intriguing. Her, anchor or co-anchor or whatever you want to call it, had actually stated that retaliatory attacks on police, lawyers, and judges, which if she was looking into something, it would have been, and they killed her for that, that would have been a retaliatory attack, were unknown in the UK, which I kind of find that a little weird. Like, don't you guys find that weird? Okay, let me rephrase that. I find it weird that he had stated it on the night of her murder. It is entirely possible that they were so close that they were, co-workers, they were co-stars together. I think his name was Nick Ross. And it is entirely possible that maybe he kind of liked her and he wanted to start something with her, and she said, no, hey, I'm getting married, or maybe, no, hey, I'm getting married and you're married, something along those lines. I didn't look into Nick Ross, and I'm not going to. Sorry. That's a can of worms I don't feel like opening. And it is entirely possible that he wanted to start something and she didn't, and he killed her because he didn't want, that information getting out. And let's be completely honest, if he was a coworker and he was a close friend, like I think he kind of was, he probably would have known about her movements at her home and trying to sell it. That is a theory I have not come across. So Cold Case Reviews reviewed this file, this file, and basically concluded in 2008 that she was killed by a hitman, a professional hitman, but it is said that the weapon that was used to kill her was a poorly constructed weapon, which I don't know what that means. If somebody knows what that means, please let me know, because I have no idea. I'm going to read this straight from Google because I don't know weapons. So the weapon that killed Jill Dando was a 9mm semi-automatic weapon. I don't know what that is. If anybody is gun savvy and you want to give out some information on this, please feel free to in the comments. This is all around a hard case because there's so many like avenues that could be taken. Like she could have been killed by a crazy fan, an ex-lover, a like person who was like a rival. She could have been killed by her fiance, her coworker, her like a hitman. I mean, there's just so many routes that this could take, and they all honestly make sense. They do. Anyways, let me know what you guys think down below on the murder of Jill Dando. Who do you think did it? What do you think the theory is that you believe? I am not leaning one way or the other. I have honestly no idea. I think it's entirely plausible that her fiance could have killed her because he found somebody else. It's entirely plausible that an ex-boyfriend could have gotten jealous, or a crazy fan had gotten jealous. I mean, she did have that encounter a few days ago, a few days before her murder, that her brother was talking about. Don't take my light. Her coworker who could have wanted something with her, and she said no, he didn't want her to expose him. He would have known about her fiance and selling that house. He would have known about her movements. A professional assassin also would have stalked her for a few weeks and could have been interpreted as the crazy fan. And I mean, there's even mafias involved, like that could be involved in this. So anyways, let me know what you guys think. So like, comment, subscribe, and ring the bell. All the social media great stuff really helps this channel out and lets me know the kind of content you guys are enjoying seeing, and I can make more. And you have to come over here if you want them to see you wave. And I'll see you guys in tomorrow's video. Bye, guys. Hope you hear Kai, but he is waving.